Okay, in this lesson, we're going to look at the midpoint formula, which is listed at the top of our page here. So as you look at the midpoint formula, you have x1 plus x2 all over 2 as kind of your first side, and then you have your y1 plus y2 over 2 as your second side. Now, okay, your x1, y1, your x2, y2 are going to be the endpoints of your line segment, okay? Now, as you're looking at points for this, one thing I'll point out, and you'll see when I do the examples, is that you have your x1, y1, x2, y2. It doesn't matter which of the 2 points is your x1, y1, and which one's your x2, y2, as long as you kind of organize that you're adding up the x's and adding up the y's. So it might not be as picky as maybe, say, like a distance formula, okay, or slope formula when it comes to that, especially since we're adding them, okay? But you do want to make sure that you're adding the x's together and the y's together, okay? And this little note right here, right next to the formula, is you're basically finding the average of your line segment, okay? Think about it. Midpoint is a geometry vocab word that we've had for a while, and it's right there in the word, right? Midpoint, point in the middle, okay? So if I want to find the midpoint of a segment involving coordinates, I basically want to find, hey, what is the average x value and the average y value of these 2 endpoints? And think about it, that's how we calculated averages, right? If I want to find the average x value of these, I'm going to take my 2 x values, add them up, and then divide it by how many x values do you have? 2. That's where those kind of random 2's come from. So they're not really random, it's just that we have 2 endpoints, 2 x values, 2 y values. We're finding the average, divide by 2. Sweet. So looking at a couple of these examples, following that format, naturally, most of the time, I am going to straight up list this as x1, y1, and this one as x2, y2. So when we plug these straight up into the formula, and I'll leave that in the top right over there, one thing I like to do when I write this is, guys, I like to keep this as a giant point, okay? Because that's one of the weird things about midpoint formula is that our answer is going to be a point, a coordinate. All right, we shouldn't be finding like one specific value, like kind of like distance formula or slope formula, okay? We are answering as a point, okay? So as I go through and do this, I'm gonna put my x1 plus x2 divided by 2. And then over here on the other side, I'm gonna do my y1 plus y2 and divide that part by 2. Now that I have those, now I am good to simplify. So as we go through and simplify this, same thing, I'm going to keep my giant point going. You get negative 5 plus 11, which gives me 6, and 7 plus 3, which gives me 10. Now, last thing I want to do when we do this is we can simplify these if we can, okay? So as I go to simplify these, guys, look, basically what it comes down to is if you have an even number on top for midpoint formula, then that means you can divide this. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 10 divided by 2 is 5. Sweet. Okay, so one thing I'll just show you real quick as I pull up Desmos here, okay? Oh, come on, there we go, okay? Let's clear some of this out. Actually, let's just reopen it. So, as I look at Desmos here, right, I just kind of want to show you where these points come from. So we got negative 5, 7, okay? Negative 5, comma 7. We have the point, let's go 11, 3. And just by looking at these 2 points right here, okay, let me zoom out. Okay, there's that red and that blue one. I have an idea that, okay, the point should be like right in the middle here around 2 and 5-ish, maybe 3 and 5-ish, okay? So as I go through and do this, I can kind of always just check 3, 5. All right, this point, if it's a midpoint, should be smack dab in the middle, and boom, look, it is. It is awesome. Okay, so remember, that's what we're trying to find here. Obviously, I haven't connected them into Desmos here, but I'm trying to find the point in the middle. Sweet, I feel good about that. So going on to the second one. Okay, going on to the second one here, we have negative 8, 12, and 5, 4. What's up? So when we plug this into our formula, we are going to put the negative 8 plus the 5 and the 12 plus the 4, divide both those by 2. Now, as I go to simplify this one, keep bringing down my big point, I get negative 3 over 2, and we get 16 over 2. So the 16 is an even number, so when I do 16 divided by 2, that gives me 8. And then the second piece, guys, just really kind of depends on maybe what your class is asking for, okay? You can either leave it as an improper fraction like that, or you can divide that. If you do divide that out, negative 3 divided by 2, you should get negative 1.5. There we go, okay? So maybe I'll do the decimals here since we're looking at coordinates. But there's my midpoint for that problem. And one last time, when you have the coordinates, same thing. I like to do this labeling. You don't have to do the labeling each time. But when I make that point, whoops, let's draw a middle there. We're going to do negative 7 plus negative 9 over 2, negative 16 plus negative 1 over 2. Simplify this out. That gives us negative 16 over 2. Obviously, a really important piece to this is make sure you watch your signs. Both of these end up being negative. If you need Desmos to help you with that, go ahead and do it. But you get negative 8, negative 8.5. Okay? Maybe the only other thing I'll show you with these examples real quick is, okay, reminding guys, I can kind of flip-flop the order, which is kind of nice about midpoint formula. Because it's addition, it follows commutative property. Like if I did negative 9 plus negative 7, okay, it doesn't really matter. Same thing, negative 1 plus negative 16. Like that will still lead me to this, the negative 16 over 2 and negative 17 over 2, okay? So it's pretty difficult to mess that part up. The main thing you got to do is make sure you add up the x's, add up the y's. The biggest mistake here, I'm going to do this in red, don't do it, is I get a lot of people that will look at this right here and do negative 7 plus negative 16. All right, a lot of people do that. If they're getting it wrong, that's probably the biggest mistake outside of just signs. Okay, so bad, don't do that. Negative 7 plus negative 16, that's 1x, 1y. Remember, we are averaging this. So, all right, get rid of that. Don't want to keep that in our notes. Okay, we are good to go. So for the bottom part of this page, all right, last thing we're going to do is, here's the only difference with these problems, is the formula is going to work the exact same. It's just that if you have a graph, we just got to find what x and y is ourselves. Okay, so as I go to label these points, this is the point 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is going to be the point negative 5, 5. Same thing, we're watching our signs really carefully because that will change our problem. And then, just like I said on the last one, as I go to follow midpoint formula, okay, I can't really mess up the order. So like if I do negative 5, I just got to make sure I'm adding it with 3, the other x value. Positive 5, add that with 4, the other y value. Boom, I am good to go. And the nice part about these, negative 2 divided by 2, 9 divided by 2, okay, that gives us negative 1, and then this one gives us about 4.5. The nice part about when you have the picture is that, guys, I can kind of test this, right? If I go to negative point negative 1 and then 4.5, does that look like it's about in the middle of my segment? Yeah, I'll know if I screwed something up because I'll go to plot it and it's either not on my line or it's not in the middle. So kind of nice when it comes to those problems. You can always run a quick check. Okay, so looking at the next one, number 2, go a little bit faster. We got the point. This is negative 4, negative 1. And then this is going to be the point. Whoa, negative, almost messed that up. Negative 1, 5. So as we write this point, let's go negative 1 plus negative 4. And then we got 5 plus negative 1. Obviously, really got to pay close attention to signs here. Okay, let's close that up. Gives us a negative 5 over 2, 4 over 2. One of these can simplify, the other one will be a negative, 2.5, 2. And let's go ahead and check that real quick. A negative 2.5, 2. That put me in the middle here, and then 2. Sweet, I feel very confident in that answer. Awesome. So for my last two, to finish this up, all right, we have the point negative 5, negative 1, and then the point positive 5, negative 4. Go to plug these in, negative 5 plus 5 over 2, negative 1 plus negative 4 over 2. And what you should notice here is that negative 5 plus 5 is 0. over 2. Other side, we get negative 5 over 2. So reminder, we haven't seen this yet. If you get 0 over 2, if you type that in a calculator, you get 0. 0 on top is 0, so negative 5 divided by 2 is a negative 2.5. Same thing, let's go and check this. 0, negative 2.5. 0, negative 2.5, boom. Same thing, feel very good about that answer. So for our last one, we have a negative 2, 4, and a 4, negative 1. So to finish this up, let's go through and do the midpoint formula. Negative 2 plus 4 over 2. 4 plus negative 1 over 2. That's going to give us a positive 2 over 2 for the x, a positive 3 over 2 for the y, which when simplified gives me a 1.5. As I go to the graph to check, we go to 1.5, boom, looks in the middle to me. I feel very good about that answer. So this is kind of our basic lesson over midpoint formula, all right? How to use the formula, some things to watch out for, and we looked at 2 types of problems. When you are given the set of coordinates, you can kind of label your x1, y1, x2, y2, plug it into the formula, watch your simplifying. And then when you have a graph, you just kind of have that extra skill of, are you able to identify your 2 endpoints, plug that into the formula, and then simplify correctly to find your midpoint.